Right, welcome everyone to the Flux Dev meeting. Today is the 2nd of February. I'm not sure if we have some new folks on the call who maybe want to introduce themselves. Just say a few words if you're, what your interest in Flux is. Okay, looks like.
Yeah, I'm Piers. This is my first time here. I'm working on the CX team in Weaveworks. So just here to audit and say hello.
Sweet. Welcome.
Thanks.
Hey, Luke, and this is my second call, I think, and similar position to Piers.
Excellent. Yeah, welcome. All right. Yeah, looking at the agenda doc, the first topic is a round of what's happening on the way to GA. Does anyone have any updates, anything you want to share?
Well, I'm happy to talk about the issues I've been having. So basically, we are now statically building all the dependencies for source controller and image automation controller. So that's working fine at runtime and all, but we're having some issues at development time. So I'm pretty much working on that. There's a PR already in place. And another issue that we have on the back of statically compiling is that it's taking a lot longer to compile. And the reason for that is that at the cross compilation, there is a bug on CC, which is the default kind of tool people use to cross compile on Docker buildx. And basically to bypass the issue, we started emulating compilation at the target architecture, which made the whole thing a lot slower. So there is a fix for that already on PR 562, but I'm trying to kind of get a lot of other things resolved together. So once we merge that, all the issues with statically building should be working. So just to kind of give a quick update of the outstanding issues is basically on Apple M1 using Golang ARM64 is not working, but if you're using Golang AMD64, it would work just fine with that PR. Linux is working fine, AMD64 and ARM64 as well. But again, as soon as I get all that sorted and the PR merged, everyone should be able to just make tests directly. The reason why I'm talking about this is a bit of a blocker for the fuzzing PRs, which are for those two controllers as well. So once I get to the top of this, the fuzzing PRs, which should also be finished.
So you are talking about the PR13 in Golang with libgit2, that one?
So there is that one, which is the new approach for the base image. So that's one thing. But to make it work properly on Mac, we had to start compiling for Darwin as well. So I'll have to make some amendments on that to start releasing static libraries for Darwin. But on top of that, there is this other PR, which I have to rename the title, which is the 562 on source controller, which actually fixes the majority of the issues that I'm talking about when you do make tests on the source controller.
So yeah, how I see it, we currently have two issues. One is 1 hour build time compared to 50 minutes.
Yep.
And the other one is that people like me that are using Apple Silicon cannot work on source controller or image automation controller because you cannot run the tests, you cannot build locally and so on, right? And you are saying that for source controller, this pull request 562 will solve both issues, or this is solving the build issue, but you're not sure if this solves also the Apple build stuff?
It solves both, but on the Apple Silicon, if you have installed and you're using Golang on AMD, so you kind of cross-compiling, that works. But if you're using Apple Silicon and you're using Golang on ARM64, then it wouldn't work. So that is another thing that I'm trying to get to the bottom of, but it's the less kind of detail. Everything else seems to be working fine.
Yeah, using the Rosetta emulation for the Go itself is not okay on Mac. I mean, I started like that, and I had like major issues with many other projects. So yeah, using Rosetta for compiling is not what we can tell users to switch Go to emulation. So
that's absolutely fine. So the only thing that I need to do now is actually start cross-compiling the static binaries into Darwin ARM64. So we don't need, so then we can support natively, Golang ARM64 on Apple Silicon.
Would it be better to solve the build time, as now this is already solved, right? So this pull request, which is draft, solves the build time, but it doesn't solve Apple. So maybe it would be better to create an issue for Apple Silicon, make this pull request solve the build time, get it in. So if we need to ship a patch for source control or image automation control, we don't have to wait 1 hour, and solve the Apple Silicon in a follow-up pull request.
Brilliant, that's awesome. So just need that PR that you send the number 13 to be approved.
Yes.
That being approved, and we're having it tagged.
Merge released.
Yeah.
Right, I need to tag it -5, so then you can update it in source controller, and then we can merge this one, right?
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay,
and
so
should be fixed.
I'm for doing this gradually. I mean, I understand that Apple Silicon is a tough issue, but if we already solved the build time, let's get that in, because it's super valuable. So
I agree. And even for people on their machines.
Wait. We had a third issue that I forgot about. It was the fact that tests on the ARM64 machines were failing for image automation controller.
Yes, so there were some issues there, which should also be fixed on that specific PR, the 562. The only problem is our ARM runners, at least on source controller, they seem to be broken. So what happens is, when we run make test, it downloads all the mtest binaries. And at some point, I don't know exactly at which point, they are owned by root. And as they're runners, those runners, they are not ephemeral, which means like we try to clean it up after. We do the cleanup with Ubuntu, which then doesn't have access to delete the folders that are owned by root. And then it just gets stuck. So even if we went there and fixed it once, we probably would have the issue again on the next run.
Whoa, so something happened in the last 2-3 days with mtest, because this was not an issue before. Also, Flux 2 runs on the Flux 2 end-to-end tests run on the same machines, and those don't have that issue at all.
Okay.
Right.
I'll have a look again, because I definitely experienced the same thing on my Mac. On ARM, running the tests, I definitely, it automatically kind of creates those mtests. files which are owned by a different user. Even though I'm not running as root, I'm running as a normal user.
Yes, also the runners are installed under the Ubuntu user. So how come those files get under root?
So if you do things on a container or a different namespace, you can pretty much create things with a different user like that, and it would just work. Like for the main OS outside of that namespace, you wouldn't actually even know that that was created, really.
So we run mtest setup inside the container.
I don't know. I don't know exactly what's happening for that to happen, because when we do the make test, we run the m test, and in theory, we're not running containers at that point, are we? So I don't know exactly what's happening on that point. It's really weird.
You're speaking about GitHub Runner?
Yeah.
Yeah, in fact, if you use an action can use the container to do something, and the container can create a root file. It depends on the action. For instance, I know on my company we use Sonar Cloud, and Sonar Cloud will create a root file on your source directory, for instance, even if the runner is starting with a runner user.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to check every action you use.
Okay.
And for instance, on my company, I use cleaners like I create a user cleaner action at the end of the build. I take the root user, I clean everything so that I'm 100% sure I remove every file.
All right.
Yeah, we shouldn't write these binaries as root because there is no need for such things. So we need to find
completely agree.
how we end up using root and removing it, because it's definitely not okay.
Yeah, and as far as I'm aware, we haven't changed, especially not on that PR, anything on the way how we download it. We pretty much just do a go install. Yeah, we do a go install of mtest, and that's it, really. So good. So just to kind of recap, we're going to merge the Golang with libgit2 PR, merge it, tag it, and then we get one PR on source controller to fix build time, do the same for image automation controller, create an issue to catalog or to capture the Mac Silicon, well, Apple Silicon issue, so we can actually fix that as a separate item.
Yes.
Brilliant.
Yes, I'll do the review, merge and publish of the libgit2 image.
Cool. Brilliant. Thank you. Yeah, I think from my side that is that's everything around the way to J.
Yeah, I think I know what's the issue. You do Docker copy and Docker remove and Docker whatever, and Docker runs as root. So when it creates all these files.
But that's the thing, I don't run the container. The only thing I do that I do a create so I can get the files from the container, but I don't run it at all.
No, you do Docker copy, and Docker, the
Docker copy has a
is
ch own.
running as root. I think
there's a ch own flag you can pass to Docker copy.
Yeah, but it's not even those files. That's the interesting thing. Like I'm copying just the libgit2 files, right? I'm not copying this setup mtest files. That container cannot even run. It doesn't have bash on it. So yeah, I literally just create it so I can pull the files from the container without much hassle. but maybe it is, and I don't know, I'm missing something. But yeah, I'll have another look on that. But regardless, we need to do something on those ARM runners, as they are not even checking out anymore.
Yeah. Okay, let's move forward. We're not going to solve this during the call. So,
Do we have any other updates around GA?
Maybe you can talk about the rewrite refactor. So source controller rewrite / refactor is almost done. We have some RC containers. Kingdom has been testing that. I can share some links. So the branch that has all these changes is called rewrite dev. I can paste the link. So this has all the various source controller reconsiders they're using the new controller patterns that we have developed. And we have some documentation, controller development documentation, which describes all the content of the changes. Again, I'm pasting the links. Can you help me fix the formatting? So all the changes in that branch have been documented in these 3 documents. There are 2 documents that describe things related to case status and how we verify things are correct in the status. The 3rd document is about some controller patterns we observed and developed, which seems to simplify things. There may still be some corner cases where you cannot use these recommendations in some controllers. I'm still working on finding those cases and modify these recommendations to work with any kind of controllers. What else? So that's it. So we're discussing about merging this branch to main branch of source controller soon. So next version of source controller will have all these changes. And I would like to have some feedback around the controller patterns document. It can be controversial. It has a lot of opinionated things. It has some things like that's part of the audit review. Things related to logging, standardized logging. So it has some of those details, how to do those correctly, how to have all the errors within your reconciliation to log them in a unified way. So there are those details available in those docs. Any question?
how far are we to release candidate of source controller V1 beta 2 APIs?
All right. So we have created a new version, V1 beta 2, because of the API changes. The RC is already present. I can paste the link. Kingdon was even testing that. RC, there, pasted the container image. So you cannot just drop it in, you have to apply the CRD updates, right? It just works.
Not just
the
the changes, there's also changes in the deployment.
All right, some
So
deployment changes.
In a deployment? Wow. Why?
I didn't see why. I just know that it didn't work until I took all the manifests from the source controllers manifest directory and applied them.
I have a feeling it's related to some flags. Maybe.
Which branch is it?
So I have pasted the link, rewrite dev. We do touch the main.go file.
Where is the link?
So you see the
Oh,
selection.
okay. Got it.
And with all these, we have nice events and logs. There is less spammy events now. Only when there is something informative or actionable, you will see those in the events. And there are many helpers to help you even create events and logs for various things. You can go to the docs and I'll be happy to discuss things. If there's any confusion, you can clarify.
It looks like the reason is related to seccomp. And pod security context. No, not pod security context.
That's not related to this branch.
Capabilities and enable seccomp. That's in the branch. Let's commit.
Sorry, what was the issue with seccomp?
We were just wondering why the deployment changed.
This commit here.
Yeah, so this didn't change in this branch. This changed on main. It's already out.
Okay, so it was published and I had to do that before the 0.26 release, but everyone else doesn't need to worry about that.
Yeah. So if you run the latest Flux, you already have all these changes in your deployment files. So to try out the V1 beta 2 of source control, you just need to update the CRDs in Git and of course the image tag. Cool. Okay.
Anything else regarding GA?
Yes, I have. I would like to change the roadmap and remove the RFCs from GA and create a separate parallel. I wouldn't call it a roadmap, but a separate entry in the document, which is not under GA, which will be under security enhancements, where we'll have the RFCs there and add to the roadmap the multi-tenancy improvements that we've shipped in 0.26, where we allow platform admins to lock down Flux. The reason for this is that
Just to clarify, the RFCs you're referring to are 2, 3, and 4.
yes, basically, I would like to take the RFCs from the GA roadmap, add it in its own section, and not block GA to the RFCs discussions. The reason for this is that now, what changed? So after Flux 0.26 release that we did yesterday, we now have an option for platform admins to lock down Flux on multi-tenant clusters if they wish so. So I don't think the topic in the RFC is around how do you share sources between tenants, or how should Flux Bootstrap look like to make it easy for multi-tenant deployment, and all those topics shouldn't be a blocker for GA. They are enhancements to what we currently have, but right now we do offer a way to lock down Flux, which we didn't have before.
Yeah, I definitely would concur with that, because in a way, at least from my knowledge, the Criterion GA is providing multi-tenancy support, which we do, especially from V26 lockdown features and all that kind of even improves it. So yeah, it does make sense to kind of, any other improvements and stuff, we just treat as any other improvements we will have as we go. And there will always be improvements and enhancements. So yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah, we also locked down the controller deployments, right? We drop all capabilities, we enable SecOn. Now we conform to the restricted Kubernetes pod security standard. So I think from a security point of view, we kind of cross-check those hard requirements for GA, where there were these two concerns. One is, okay, I'm running multi-tenant clusters. How do I prevent tenants from, using another tenant source or reaching to other or listening to other tenants' events? And that was solved. And the other issue was about how we make the Flux pods run with least privileges, right? And both things were sorted in this release. Any concerns about this? We can rediscuss it next meeting. We don't have to take the decision now.
Is there more from the roadmap that needs to be cleaned up or can be checked off? If you were to summarize, like if we move this off of the roadmap, what would be the big blocks that are sort of missing on the way to GA?
API consolidation,
Mm-hmm.
adopt case status everywhere, standardize events and status conditions, and metadata everywhere. So these are the two major blockers. And the others are around documentation improvements. We still don't have developer guides, how you build a controller from scratch that works, can extend Flux easily, right? How you do that? We have that source watcher, which doesn't have a custom resource on its own, and so on. So that also needs a lot of work. And finalize the cloud specific guides. We made some good improvements here. We now have, for example, for image automation, we now have documented all the cloud specific bits, how you enable auto login for Azure, for Google, for AWS, and so on. But we are still missing a guide for GKE. We have a guide for Azure and AKS. We have a guide for EKS, but we still don't have a guide for Google Cloud. So that the documentation things could easily be sorted out once we finalize the API consolidation. I know.
I think
Sunny, you wrote, right? Developer guide as part of the.
Right. So those documents that we shared above, those will go to the developer guide section. And Fide has already started working on some API spec docs for the new API versions, which are like inspired by Kubernetes upstream docs. There's a lot of details about all the API, how to use things. So
we are working on the docs update.
Great.
Thanks a lot for the summary. What is everyone's quick gut feeling? Does what Stefan listed sound like a good GA? Or is there anything you were sort of expecting? At least no immediate objections. Okay, cool. Yeah, thanks a lot. Okay, next on the agenda is the audit follow-up. So Sunny already mentioned the standardized logging. Paulo mentioned the fuzzer, and as far as I can see, the other bits are just documentation pieces. Kingen is working on describing the end-to-end processes in Flux. I had a brief look over it, like from the structure and the intention that looks good to me. And I have a PR in the queue for the blurry line between Flux and GitHub's toolkit. I would appreciate feedback on that. And that's all that's really missing. Everything else we sort of crossed off, which is great. So well done, everyone.
Yeah.
Any questions about that or feedback? Cool. Yeah, the next one is a quick reminder. We received an email about KubeCon EU, the maintainer track session. The deadline is in 2 weeks. So if any of you were planning to submit. And the good thing is, like, everyone we have listed as a maintainer, which is like 13 people now or something, should be able to submit. So that was also nice to see. Okay, Kingdom, you have the next item.
Yeah, there's a Flux V1 release likely out this week because of CVE warnings in the base image. I don't know if they're anything important or not, but they're expat, which probably has nothing to do with Flux. I just don't want there to be CVEs flagged in the base image. So there's no changes required. It's just rebuild. There's also a couple of Go modules that I'll try to upgrade. Go JWT and another one. They're mentioned in the PR.
A quick question. I saw that we have Dependabot in some places, but it doesn't seem like we have across the place. Is that something that might be worth us to start pursuing?
Dependabot is quite not suitable for Go modules. For example, it will create PRs for individual modules, but Kubernetes does not work like that. If you bump Go client, but you don't bump the API or API extensions or runtime or meta, bad things will happen. That's basically guaranteed. So having Dependabot opening hundreds of pull requests on all our repos every time there is a new Kubernetes release that you cannot merge, you have to do the upgrade at once, run all the tests with all matching versions be the same. I think it's just a lot of noise, and you will end up doing the Kubernetes packages upgrades manually anyway. So I'm not sure how we can do this.
I agree. And what I've done is I use Renovate on my fork, which keeps the spam on the central repo down to a minimum, and at least keeps me in the loop about what Renovate's identified. I'm not sure if it's better than Dependabot, but catches a lot of Go module things. And
Yeah, because regardless of the tool, it's definitely worth to always have some sort of a view across the board on all the things we kind of building and maintaining, and understand, like all the CVs that come out, so we can actually have a better response to it. But yeah, that's fine. I'll have a look at Renovate. I never played with that before, and I'll see if I can suggest something we can have visibility across the board, even if it's like some sort of machinery we have to kind of create or something. That happens every once in a while and checks across the board all the things we have to patch. But yeah, it would be good to have that visibility so we can improve our response times.
Yeah, what I think we should definitely have is some kind of bot that scans our container registry for all the Flux controllers and the Flux CLI image, and creates a report with all the CVs it found. Doing this per repo is yet again not advised because it's a lot of noise for nothing. We use everywhere is the base image. Every single controller depends on all the other packages. So maybe we could create a dedicated repo where we have there the GitHub job that runs on a schedule, pulls the containers, and scans the Go module of all containers, and also the OS packages that we install there. And we get the alert in one place, right? And then we can make a plan there how to fix it, because usually if it's something in Go mode, then we have to follow the path of our dependencies. Like first we have to update in package, do a release of all our packages, then pull those updates into all the controllers, do a release of the controllers, and finally do a release of Flux 2 and the Terraform provider. So this is documented in the Flux 2 release doc, how everything flows. So assuming there is a CV, let's say in I don't know, client Go or something that we use everywhere, one of those packages, we have to update everything.
Cool, that's a nice one.
I can create a repo if you want for the scanner, and I can make you admin that repo so you can test their different scanners. In the past, I tried 3V for Flux 1, and I found out that's less than ideal.
Yeah, to be honest, a lot of the CV scanners is a bit of hit and miss. Claire used to be standard and then became 3V. Sneak is good for some things. We might have to do some sort of like a mix and match, to be honest. But just having one place that we can automate that process and go through all the images and potentially even consider things that would not be automatically captured. So, for example, things that we statically baking into the controller binary, those things would be good for us to have automated. So yeah, just having that place would be brilliant. So if you can create that repo, would be amazing.
Yep. How should we call it? Scanners or security scanning, or how should we call that?
I think it would be good to be something that is generic, because at the same time there are a few things from security perspective or CVE perspective we want to do now. There might be other things in the future if we want to apply like some sort of like policies, or we want to check some sort of patterns are being observed across the board. So we would be good to have some sort of like observation, like high. Sorry, what was that?
I'm sorry, I thought I was muted.
That's fine. Once I actually was unmuted, although it was showing the icon that I was muted. That was not a great experience. But anyways, yeah, so maybe like high tower or something that kind of indicates that is something that would observe, all the other repositories within the org. But yeah, I don't know. If anyone else have a better suggestion, I'll definitely be keen to hear.
Cool.
I've also been using Harbor that has Trivy built in, and that's nice.
Yeah, I've been using that quite a bit as well. It's definitely really nice for a bunch of things. On that case, it might even, well, if you're using Trivy, yeah, it would be as simple as either using Harbor as a proxy registry and get the results, or just kind of pulling, with those sync policies, isn't it?
Yeah, Trivy has a GitHub action, so it's trivial to run it on our GCR images. We will not hit any rate limits. It's all there running in GitHub. The report looks quite nice in the GitHub Actions output. The thing I've noticed is that it's either way behind. So I'm scanning with another tool, I'm seeing a bunch of CVEs, Trivy says, oh, everything is fine, when in fact it's not. But maybe it has improved. But if we have this dedicated repo, I can ask CNCF to also add that repo to the sneak token. So we can use multiple scanners for container images. Trivy, that's free. We can use it. GitHub Actions. We can use the sneak subscription that CNCF gave us for Flux, and use sneak to also scan the same images. Catch as much as we can from with all the tools that we have available.
Yeah, that sounds like a good approach.
Super. Do we have anything else? Anything we were hoping to discuss today, or anything where you need help? All right. In that case, it was great to see you all again. See you next week.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Cheers.
Bye.